So a lot of you have seen my coverage of Julian Assange, and for his latest hearing, I've been relying on this guy, Craig Murray. He's a former diplomat and very much a activist for justice reform, criminal and civil, I believe. He's done a lot of good work. And you also know that I've been kind of chagrined about how Israel seems to be given a free pass in the whole Israel-Palestine conflict. Then, of course, that makes people go, oh, well, you're like the Palestinians, you're in favor of the terrorists. It's like, oh, shut up. For the record, the leaders in both Israel and Palestine, I think, are horrible. And as far as the people are concerned, most of the Israeli people are good, most of the Palestinian people are good, and I really hate that they're caught in the middle of all this. But this one is about bias in the BBC, which is supposed to be one of the best news outlets in the world, and how they're just basically repeating Israeli propaganda. And he starts out saying, in a genuinely outrageous piece of victim blaming, and victim blaming is one of those terms that I think has just become so misused that it kind of makes you go cringe, but I think that when we go through the story, you'll see that this actually is victim blaming. BBC News just blamed Palestinian intransigence in refusing to accept Israeli annexation of the West Bank for the deaths of Palestinian children caused by the Israeli blockade of medical supplies to Gaza. That's not very well worded. Well, let's go through the story and you'll see what he's talking about. So, precise quote from the BBC News presenter. The lives of hundreds of sick Palestinian children are being put at risk because of the latest downturn in relations between their leaders and Israel last month. The Palestinian president said his government was giving up on past peace agreements because of Israeli plans to annex parts of the West Bank. That decision stopped cooperation on many security and civil matters, including medical and travel permits. And then he talks about the heart-rending piece, break out the tiny violin. Middle East correspondent Yolande Nell, not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, that Palestinian children in Gaza are dying of various medical conditions and their mothers are distraught. And, of course, the blame goes completely on the Palestinians. And he says the BBC did not blame Israel for placing a blockade illegally preventing pharmaceuticals and medical supplies from entering Gaza, the basic reason the children cannot be treated at home. The BBC did not blame Israel for blockading illegally the civilian population of Gaza so that these children cannot freely leave for treatment in Europe without Israeli clearance. The BBC did not point out that the proposed annexation of the West Bank is illegal, has been condemned by the UN Secretary General and by 95% of the governments of the world, and will precipitate great violence. No, the BBC blamed the Palestinians. Accept the illegal annexation of still more of your land, or small children will die, and it will be your fault. So that's kind of how the mob does things, right? It's like, why are you making me have Guido break your fingers? I don't like doing that. If you'd only done what we said, you wouldn't have to have your fingers broken. I don't like breaking your fingers. Why are you making me do that? That's exactly what it is. And he says, that is a line the BBC are perfectly happy to push out on behalf of Israel. It is an astonishing moment for the UK state propagandist. It is important that we do not ourselves become complacent at this absolutely unacceptable behavior. And so I really don't get why Israel gets a free pass. And of course, you actually try and say, hey, look, Israel did this bad thing, and that's bad, and they shouldn't have done it. They go, well, you're an anti-Semite. It's like, what? No. Saying a government did something bad should not be anything controversial. Governments do bad things all the time. And the state of Israel has done pretty much their share of the bad stuff in the world. And they absolutely need to be criticized for it, and it kind of drives me crazy that they aren't. So it's a good thing, I guess, we have people like Craig Murray out there with the courage to speak out against it. I'm not really sure of the details. And I don't know if I'm going to do a story on this or not. I don't know if I'll have time to research it, but Murray himself is basically being charged with contempt of court, not because of this case and not because of the Assange case. It was for some different case, but he was reporting on it and blogging on it the way he was in the Assange case. And so because he blogged about it and because he said what happened in the courtroom, they're holding him in contempt, and he's going to have a contempt of court trial and all of that. Yeah, so let's forget about the concepts of justice. Let's forget about this being a public forum or anything like that. It's just, I mean, we've got problems over here in our justice system, but as we've seen with Julian Assange and Count Dankula and people like that, things are really screwed up over there. So, yeah, there's another example. I'm absolutely saying the UK government is horrible and doing horrible things, whereas most British, I believe, are good people. I'll say that about pretty much any country because that's just how it is. And so, best of luck to Murray on his ridiculous contempt charges. And hopefully when, I think it's September, the Assange trial is finally held for, hopefully Assange makes it till then without getting COVID or anything like that. But, and we'll have to see how all that gets resolved. But time will tell. We'll come back to those stories. But I just wanted to get this out about Israel and why they seem to be getting a free pass for everything. So thank you very much. If you like what I do, please hit like, subscribe, and the bell. I am being shadow banned. So if you could share this video everywhere you can, that would do so much more than you know. And even if you don't have a lot to give, if you can go to donate.bogosity.tv and just give me pennies worth of cryptocurrency, if most of you out there watching do that, it really adds up to a whole lot. Or you can give through PayPal. You can also become a supporter at Patreon and Subscribestar. Become a regular supporter, get videos early and ad-free. And if nothing else, just keep watching. And so I'll see you next time. Until then, stay strong and be free.